welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and for the 6th annual BROSCAR Awards, your other host for these nominees and winners is the almighty PalpaKelli. Welcome on, Palpa.
Thank you. Hello, Brokettes.
This all started off as an award show where we disagreed on the other award show and their nominees and their winners. So we're like, we're going to have our own, the superior BROSCARs, the no politics involved, no agendas, straight up what the hosts enjoyed the most. And so you may have seen on X, Instagram, Facebook, our nominees, put up the graphics and you'll see some for the winners. But let's start it off and kick off this year's BROSCAR Awards.
We're going to kick off this year's awards with Best Supporting Actor. And our nominees are Ben Affleck from Air, Robert Downey Jr. from Oppenheimer, Anthony Hopkins from Rebel Moon, Teo Yoo from Past Lives, and Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer.
And your winner for this year's Best Supporting BROSCAR Award goes to Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer.
He wanted to be the man who moved the earth. He talks about putting the nuclear genie back in the bottle. Well, I'm here to tell you that I know.
Congratulations to Robert Downey Jr. for his outstanding performance in Oppenheimer, which earned him the prestigious Best Supporting Actor award. Downey Jr.'s captivating portrayal enhanced the film's storyline, demonstrating his exceptional talent and impacting audiences worldwide.
So I will be honest, I have not seen Oppenheimer, but what specifically would you really credit as what put Downey Jr. apart from everyone else in this category?
I know for me, when I threw it up as a nominee, he's the one actor out of all these films. The close one is Anthony Hopkins, and if we had found out that he had done motion capture for Jimmy, like maybe that would have edged it out. But Robert Downey's character otherwise is the one I spoke about the most after finishing Oppenheimer. Not even Oppenheimer did I talk about more than Robert Downey Jr. And I just kept thinking about what a shitty... There's this misunderstanding involved in the whole film about how he felt he was treated, and his own ego is what causes him to go down this destructive path. He thought that Einstein was snubbing him purposefully, whereas Einstein was in his mind thinking about the impact of creating something like a bomb. And Robert Downey's character thought it was all about himself.
Of course.
And so that's what I just kept thinking about, because it could reflect on, at least when I'm thinking of what others may behave or say, and I might think it's about me. And so I fully understood how that could have easily gone into this negative trajectory, whereas most of the time, no one's thinking or talking about me. So, but in Robert, it made for an amazing story, and probably it was based on something real, something that happened. So this person, unfortunately, went down this path, and Robert Downey played it really well. He plays a good villain.
Well, congratulations, Robert Downey Jr. Your award will be in the mail. You'll get it, your BROSCAR at some point.
It got lost already.
Oh, okay. USPS, damn it.
Yeah, or FedEx. We had gone UPS.
I'll be fine.
Next category is Best Lead. And your nominees this year are Cillian Murphy from Oppenheimer, Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon, Greta Lee for Past Lives, Carey Mulligan from Maestro, and Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon.
And your winner for this year's BROSCARs for Best Lead, Greta Lee.
He was just this kid in my head for such a long time. And then he was just this image on my laptop. And now he is a physical person. It's really intense, but I don't think that that's attraction. I think I just missed him a lot. I think I miss Soul.
Did he miss you?
Congratulations to Greta Lee for her outstanding portrayal in Past Lives, culminating in the well-deserved recognition of Best Lead. Lee's mesmerizing performance has undoubtedly left an indelible mark, captivating audience and showcasing her remarkable talent and dedication to her craft.
Congratulations, Greta. She had the performance of trying to put together what the director, this was all loosely based on the director's life and an experience she went through. So she had that connection with the director to immediately basically play herself as she plays the same character from an early point in her life, the 20s, to her 30s, her 40s, or 50s, as the movie time jumps. And so she continues that portrayal, does it extremely well. Absolutely captivating performance. It felt like, and I'm sure a lot of that was the fact that you had the real person there with you. She felt like that person, like that character was no longer a character, someone that truly felt love for this other person. That it was Tail Lee who was nominated for Best Supporting throughout their years, and how they did not end up together in the end.
Why would they make that happen?
Because it's based on real life.
Listen, because I was sold, right? You're telling me this is a love story that spans years, and then you're telling me it's not a happy ever after?
No, this is real life. This is reality.
Ugh. I was going to watch it, but now I don't know. I don't think I can.
Our next category is Best Cinematography for this year's BROSCAR Awards.
As always, Daniel leaves me with the most challenging names to say, but I'm going to try my best. So first, we have Zack Snyder for Rebel Moon, Todd Campbell for Leave the World Behind, Hoyte van Hoytema for Oppenheimer, Xavier Kirshner for Past Lives, and Matthew Libatique for Maestro.
And your winner this year for Best Cinematography goes to
Xavier Kirshner.
Believe what?
That you and I knew each other in another life.
Because we're sitting here at the same table in the same city at the same time.
Yeah, wouldn't that make this Indiana?
For Past Lives. Congratulations to Xavier Kirshner for his exceptional talent in cinematography, which was showcased brilliantly in the film, and for earning the well-deserved Best Cinematography Award. Kirshner's artistry behind the lens has elevated storytelling to new heights, leaving an enduring influence on audiences worldwide. That is the second BROSCAR for Past Lives.
That's incredible. I, again, was sold until I found out the ending. Now I'm already crying.
Shot beautifully, and it's lit up wonderfully. Like, lights up the characters, the actual locations that they're at. No green screen here. The bars, the restaurants. It's a beautiful film to watch, even if you're not in it for the story.
I'm surprised that it won over Zack Snyder.
That was a close second, very close second for Rebel Moon. But I think if it had been Rebel Moon, the Snyder cut, the actual R-rated one where we got all the scenes, maybe I would have seen more out of the cinematography.
Our second to last category of the night is Best Director, and your nominees are Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Zack Snyder for Rebel Moon, Ben Affleck for Air, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Greta Gerwig for Barbie.
And your winner is Zack Snyder for Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. There's your Zack Snyder.
Surprise, surprise.
Can you write?
Yeah. I can write him.
Yeah, he did the cinematography, he did the directing, did a bunch of the writing. This was a personal project for him. I would have liked to have seen, again, the R-rated cut, but I think the difference is here between his cinematography and his directing as far as winning. I felt, wow, green screen's amazing, right? It's incredible. The fact that Xavier had to work with real locations, I think, edged it out. I would like to see Zach do some of that, and I know green screen is his thing. Would have done it great if it had been an more on-location setting. But the shots that we got in Rebel Moon, A Child of Fire, are more iconic than what we see in Past Lives. So while cinematography, the lighting is incredible in Past Lives, the shots of like the griffin up against the sun, or the man jumping on it or trying to tame it, the ships coming in and out or going over a planet, the planet behind our main character. These are all things Jimmy himself, you can take any screenshot of Jimmy and that itself could be something you frame. So that's where Zack Snyder, the Rebel Moon, screenshot any scene in there and you can frame that shit.
I want Zach to be listening to be like, oh, okay, Daniel, I'll just go shoot on another planet. That'll make you happy.
Who's the director that would try to do that shit? I'm trying to remember. Maybe Stanley Kubrick would have tried. He would have been one. Although he did shoot one of the moon scenes in 2001, A Space Odyssey. So he didn't actually go to the moon for that. But if he had a choice, maybe he would have.
Rebel Moon was one of the movies that I did get the opportunity to see this year, though. And I definitely agree. That movie truly transports you to another place, to another time. I don't think any of our main characters that I didn't care about throughout. And again, that leads back into his directing and the way that he truly made us feel for these characters and go along on their journey. Even though it wasn't shot on another planet.
Our final award is the most prestigious to some, and that is Best Picture. Your nominees this year are Air, Oppenheimer, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, Past Lives, and Killers of the Flower Moon.
And congratulations goes to the outstanding team behind Air for clinching this prestigious Best Picture award at the 2024 BROSCARs.
Everyone at this table will be forgotten as soon as our time here is up. Except for you. You're going to be remembered forever because some things are eternal. You're Michael Jordan, and your story is going to make us want to fly.
Your exceptional talent and dedication have undoubtedly left an understood mark on cinema.
So this might be an upset to many, but Air
And Zack
was
Snyder.
my favorite. When we were watching movies last year, 2023, at the very start of it, I have this the hosts know, I have a document that's shared among the hosts, and at the very bottom, did not lose track of, wait, did that come out this year? We had those years where I couldn't remember, and I had to go look up each of these movies, or there'd be movies that I might have forgotten that could have been nominated for the BROSCARs. And so what I started doing last year is at the very bottom of this document, if I saw a film that I absolutely adored, I wrote it down at the bottom. And then throughout the year, I pared it down, and that was what I presented to the rest of the hosts, and from there we made our lists here. And so Air was the first movie I saw last year that made it on here, and nothing I saw last year topped Air for me. And Rebel Moon, while I liked it, but many of you heard our review on A Child of Fire with Millennial Mike and Matt, and it fell short in many ways. And I think a lot of that was the fact that we didn't get the Snyder Cut right away, the full plot. The book adaptation gives us a lot more of the fleshed out characters and story. If that had come out first, maybe we would have had a different Best Picture winner. But Air overall was so well balanced, told an amazing story. I don't get tired of watching it. Ben Affleck is in it, but great as a director as well. He and Matt Damon actually also wrote the film, but they couldn't be credited of it because of certain writing, actor laws, whatever, if you're starring in it and directing it. So sole credit went to one, but they were involved in it, and I really liked it. I don't know if I'm influenced by the fact that I grew up watching the Chicago Bulls, so it's a story of how the Jordan Airs came about, and I don't even collect those shoes. I've never had a pair of Air Jordans, but even that's how good the film is, where not even a collector, I think even if I weren't a Chicago Bulls fan, I still would have found something to really enjoy in this.
So I'm none of those things, right? I'm not a basketball, sports ball fan. Didn't grow up watching Chicago Bulls.
Did you watch Space Jam?
I did watch Space Jam. I did enjoy Space Jam. But, I mean, I also don't collect the shoes. And I will say that I really enjoyed that film as well. I think, like you mentioned, it was very well paced. I really enjoyed Michael Jordan's mom's character.
Yeah.
Right? She was incredible. And just knowing that, like, oh, she's a real person, like, made it even better in what she was able to do for her child. I love that they remind me they had Michael Jordan in there, but like you never saw his face.
Yeah, they didn't cast someone that looked like him or
Correct.
anything. They just had, you saw him from behind, you saw
Right.
from his neck down. He's such an icon, right? How could you?
Of course. And I thought that was so clever the way that, like, I wasn't even mad. What am I going to be mad about?
Right.
But they tied in the drama of all this unfolding. They tied in the humor. I think it was like a 2.5 hour movie, something like that. It did not feel that long. Definitely, like I said, you were just so engrossed in it that you got to the end and you're just like, oh my God, that was incredible. And it's over.
Yeah, and that was Viola Davis that played Jordan's mom. And it's known in Chicago Bulls fans that she was essentially his manager.
Right.
He made the right decisions, and the dad was there for support and everything, but she was the one that she knew how all of this worked. She knew if they would try to take advantage of him. She knew what the best deal would be for him. And you see that in the film. You see how some of the characters, Matt Damon's character, is smart enough to respect her intelligence and play into it. Like, hey, this is what's going to happen when you go meet these guys. And when it does, come back and you'll see that I know what I'm talking about. And that gamble, I guess, works out. Even though they might not have done those things, he knew Adidas enough. He knew all these other people enough to know that this is how they operate. This is how we operate. At the end of the day, I mean, it's just, there's so much to talk about when it comes to that movie.
Right.
And the characters. And I really, really enjoyed it.
I think it gives me the same kind of feel. And so for somebody who hasn't watched this, if you've maybe seen Moneyball,
Right.
same kind of thing for me, where it's just, you get to see kind of the inner workings of these things, but also, right, sports related, and just the way that these characters' minds work to figure all this stuff out and make these things happen is incredible. And my schooling background is in marketing also, so there were things in there that I really enjoyed where I was like, oh, okay, I understand why they did these things a certain way.
Another one that I'd almost compare it to would be like The Big Short. If you like The Big Short or Moneyball, then you'll probably like Air. But I would put like Moneyball above Air and Air above The Big Short. Big Short kind of does that thing where it's like, oh, there's the guy that gets his comeuppance, and it's a little bit more formulaic. Whereas Air and Moneyball more or less do their own thing, which I like. Ben Affleck was kind of intimidating at some points where he's like, these fucking board members they're getting ready to. So he just had to. He played that guy that's like, look, I trust you, but I'm getting a ton of pressure from these guys. It's a huge gamble.
I still got to do my job.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Air, it's on Big Bad Amazon. I know, an Amazon film got nominated for the BROSCARs. But you can also buy the Blu-ray that was available at Target at one point. I know I saw it there. And you can probably rent it on Vudu at this point. It's definitely worth it.
But congratulations to all of our nominees and winners. It sounds like you had a really great year watching some movies.
I do hope that this year's goes a lot where I have a harder time. Like this time I was like, okay, this, and this. It was easy to pare down the list and put them up. But I want another year where it's like, oh man, there was this movie and this movie. Like a year like There Will Be Blood, where there was just all these incredible films out there. The Hurt Locker, one of those years, or Frost Nixon, one of those years. So it was I'm hoping for that to happen soon, but I know the pandemic slowed a lot of that down. Some studios are getting ready to be sold, like Warner Brothers Discovery. And we're not, there's studios that we're not rooting for, like Warner Brothers Discovery and Disney. So we're going to, as much as possible, not see any of their things. Right. So when these studios, whatever the shakeout is, after they figure out their streaming stuff, after they stop their bleeding and go back to making the stuff they want, plus we still got to get through the cycle of pause from the writer's strike. And that's going to be another year or two before we get through all of those movies that were written by who knows who during that strike. And then there's going to be that delay, but I'm really optimistic for future years where there'll be another excellent year like I mentioned.
Do you have any movies that are coming up soon that you're really excited for, that you're hoping are contenders for next year?
For sure, the Snyder cuts of Rebel Moon Parts 1 and 2. I'm really looking forward to watching those. I know the regular PG-13 one of Part 2 is going to come out first. Then later in the summer, we're going to get the Snyder cuts of those. So I'm hoping that the jump is big between those two ratings. And then I think it's going to be a lot of stuff that catches me by surprise, especially towards the end. A lot of the stuff that were nominated for the other award show, like Pretty Little Things, I want to say, a lot of these movies aren't available until well after the year is over. So I did a lot of catching up last month as far as like, okay, this is the one. These are the movies that they say are excellent. Like there was the Nick Cage one, Pretty Little Things. It creeped me out, and not in a good way, because the whole premise is there's a pregnant woman that I didn't finish it. That's how much I was like, God, I can't do this movie. A pregnant movie that jumps off a bridge is what we're told, and she gets saved by someone who likes doing Frankenstein experiments on people. So instead of saving her life, he ends up taking the baby's brain and they swap brains. And so when she played Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And so it's an adult body with a baby brain, and she's learning, but then they get into weird shit where other people are attracted to her and she's learning. And I was like, I can't do this. It's still like a fucking baby inside. Right. So I was like, why are people watching this? And it just disturbed me in that way. Willem Dafoe's even in it.
Willem Dafoe's. He did The Lighthouse, and he was that naked guy, so I don't know.
And I don't know if it's based on something, but I guess the way I would have done it, because I don't know if I would have been involved in something like that, would have been to instead say her brain regressed, or I don't know. Like, I guess try that, but it's still like a kid's brain. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this on the show before, but after you have a kid and like you've been through that, the way that you process those kind of things as a parent, there's so many things that I can't.
Yeah.
Movies I can't watch if it's too intense. If anything happens to a child in a movie, in a book, nope, I'm done. I can't. My anxiety cannot.
It's kind of like people with dogs in movies, like, oh, is the dog okay? Like Independence Day.
But what about the dog?
The golden retriever.
It's true. It's the same kind of thing. But I just think that instinct as a parent is just like, nope.
And I'm also hoping for more out of, I know we talked about Rebel Moon, but more bigger hits like Netflix. Leave the World Behind. I recognize that it was shot beautifully, lit beautifully, but the story itself was, okay, it's a doom and gloom type of thing, but I'm hoping for more of that higher quality to continue from some of these streaming services.
Like Bridgerton.
Oh, there you go. You're looking forward to that.
I'm so ready. Bridgerton, the next season. Really season 3, I guess.
Bridgerton, The Next Generation?
Yeah, exactly. First part comes out in May. Second part comes out in June.
I heard you and my sister talking about it.
Yes.
So everyone's in it.
Everybody loves Bridgerton. Where have you been? You should be watching Bridgerton too.
It's not for me.
That's a love story where they end up together. That's why it's not for you.
I haven't heard any other of my guy friends mention Bridgerton. Like, oh, you should watch it. Like, it's good.
Just wait until the next season, and then they're all of their significant others will be watching it. They'll be like, fucking Bridgerton.
They can watch it. You can watch it. I'm not stopping you.
I know.
You don't need me to watch it too.
I will. It's fine. You just sit next to me while I watch it. Late at night. That's what we're going to be watching.
Outside of Bridgerton, do you have anything on your list?
I have many books on my list, but we've again talked about it before. I don't watch nearly as much as I should. I watch a lot of kids shows. I listen to a lot of Minecraft raps in the car, just things that pertain to the children. And when I have time for myself, it's all about reading. I read many, many, many books. I've been in a reading slump lately. It's not fun. But I would rather spend my time that way versus watching something.
I will give an honorable mention to Five Nights at Freddy's.
No,
that was like
that's spooky.
The surprise of the year for me, because I understand the lore. I've seen some videos on it, but I've never played the games. I've never watched Let's Plays of FNAF is what the kids call it.
Okay.
And I was very familiar with it because back when it was the most popular, 8 years ago, I'd have a lot of kids come into the comic shop and ask for Five Nights at Freddy merch, parents as well, or comics. And we didn't have it. And then it kind of came and went, and I was always like, damn, I wish they had done a comic or a book or something that the comic shops can order that we can get.
Right.
When they announced that Five Nights movie a year or two ago, I was like, oh, they missed a fucking boat. No one's talking about that shit anymore. And Scott and I had said it, I think maybe even on this podcast. We were fully wrong because that movie came out, did well in theaters. There may be a sequel coming. And I'm like, holy shit, I was way wrong on this. What the fuck do I know about greenlighting movies? And so it showed up on Paramount Plus. Oh no, it was on Vudu for renting, and it was on my list. I'm like, well, I want to check it out anyway because of the puppetry. I heard they used practical effects for the big puppets and costumes.
Awesome.
I'm like, if anything, I'll watch it for that, just to appreciate the effects on it. And it ended up being, I think, almost a 2-hour movie. The actor that played Shaggy in those crummy live-action Scooby-Doo movies, he's in it, old-ass Shaggy. One of the characters, I think, from the Mockingbird movies, Mockingjay movies, Peter, I think it was.
PETA.
He's the star in it. And I got engrossed in the story, and I liked it, and it was another one that was like, this isn't cheaply made. It looks expensive. I don't know if it was. The budget wasn't crazy. The animatronics look incredible as they're going around. The only thing I would have liked is a bloodier, more violent thing like in the games, but they kind of toned it down a little bit. But they did not treat their audience like, look, it's just a bunch of, gamers that are going to be watching this. No, I as an audience member who's not into that game, I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I plan on purchasing it one day when it gets a little cheaper. But I got to say, that was my surprise of last year.
That movie is not for me. It sounds spooky.
I wish it were scarier. That's the only thing. Yeah.
But I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, one, obviously, it seems like it was a good movie, but do you think a lot of its success was based off the nostalgia from people who were like, oh man, I loved this game when it was out?
Apparently, because I have no idea. I didn't think they'd come out of the woodwork to watch it, and they did. My brother and sister went and saw it, and my sister's more into FNAF, and she didn't like it because the lore didn't line up. She's like, they should have saved this for the second movie. That was in the second game. And to me, as someone who's doesn't know any better, I'm like, as a movie, it worked for me.
Yeah.
Like, I liked the story. It had a beginning, a middle, and end. It had a payoff. I don't know. Like, they made it work for me, because if someone like me liked it, then it was fine. It's kind of like the Halo seasons 1 and 2. I haven't played any of the games, but I enjoyed season 1 and 2. And I get that a lot of fans are like, he's without his helmet and he's running around without his costume, and Master Chief will never fuck a woman. And I'm like, wouldn't he? I mean,
would he fuck a man? Like,
I got to ask him, because that's what I should have asked.
What a weird way to say that. Like, they could have just said he'd never fuck anybody. He'd never fuck a woman. Things we didn't know about Master Chief. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe he's a gay. I don't know. I really don't know, but I think the seasons worked fine. Again, as a non-Halo gamer, I love the franchise, but honestly, I don't know the story. But I think they worked.
Isn't it like the TV show Lucifer was nothing like Lucifer from the comic, but it was really great, except I never finished the last 3 episodes. I just can't.
There's a lot of shows like that, too.
But I'm glad you enjoyed it. Could that be like your honorable mention, BROSCAR?
Yeah.
Your most surprising
throwing him a bone.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Surprise of the year. Here you go.
They're just happy to have a BROSCAR, okay?
Yeah, that's true. Well, there you have it. If you had your own picks, please share them with us on X, on Facebook, wherever it is you find us, and let us know what your favorite films or surprises of last year were. Maybe if you saw FNAF. But since it has been a few months since we've done sort of a BroCat block with PalpaKelli and I, and one of the things that I know when Julian from Lazy Gaming Guys, friend of the channel, and they're both on the show, Scott and Julian came over to Florida to visit, and I was able to meet up a couple days, and they talked about their trip on one of the streams for one of their friends, OmniJam, but I hadn't yet seen or heard it from their channel. So I suggested, I'm like, hey, can you guys cover it on your next, I know you may have discussed it on a different channel, but you haven't put it up on yours, and I'd like to hear about it. So I'm like, wait, why don't we do the same too? And discuss I shared a bunch of pictures from these different ports and everything, and that's part of the Disney. We hadn't been on a Disney cruise in over 10 years, I think, right?
I think it was about 9 years since we had been on one.
And I think if we didn't have kids, we would have gone back to maybe Royal Caribbean.
Probably.
But yeah, I know, whereas as anti-Disney as we are, that's the best one for kids.
Right.
No surprise there. And Leo and Sophia had a blast, and I think there's plenty to sort of talk about there.
There is. So definitely, and I think for those who are maybe wondering about the cruise lines or the differences, Disney, I do definitely think has the best service. Definitely the best for kids. I felt very safe anywhere that they were on the boat. They don't nickel and dime you on soda, so like all soda is included. Any other cruise line that we've been on, you can have as much like water, coffee, and tea, I think, but any sodas, etc., are not included. But then the flip side to that is there's not as many bars on the Disney cruise. And I don't know that they have a drink package like you would typically get on another cruise.
That I don't know, right, for Disney.
Right.
There might be like a little thing where you get a couple, but I don't know if they have an unlimited
Maybe,
thing like
right.
Carnival.
It's not the same as you'd see on the other cruise. And then the last thing, which I think the first time we went on a cruise was a downside. This time was definitely not a downside, but pretty much everything stops at 10 p.m. There's nothing after 10 p.m. There's no nightclubs. There's no real nightlife. There are some shows on like the big screen out in front of the pool, but very little.
So there are actually restaurants and there's a nightclub that goes on at night for Disney.
Okay.
But the thing is, we never made it over there
No,
we
of
were
course not.
tired by 9 p.m., 8
Yes.
p.m.
Yeah, but comparatively to the other cruises that we've been on, there is very little nightlife on a Disney.
Yeah, the other ones had casinos and all that.
Right. But the other thing that I love about a Disney cruise, so on a different cruise line, we've been on Royal Caribbean and we've been on Norwegian, or the other two. You have one dining room that you go to every single time. On Disney, there's 3 different restaurants that you rotate through that have a very different menu that matches kind of the restaurant that you're in. There's one restaurant, Animator's Palette is our favorite, where the last night there's like a whole show of your drawings that dances around the room, which is really cool.
They also match the port that we're in, because when we were in, they were doing like the Pirates Night and it was one of the islands. Yeah.
So, yes, they have different theme nights, and then they just have characters walking around. So you turn a corner, and there's Thor walking through the halls.
Yeah,
or
I was like, oh, it was the MCU Thor, too. I was like,
it was so funny, too. Okay, I'll tell the story real fast. So Thor walked up to some girl to say hi, and I don't know if the guy who was playing Thor knew her or not, but whatever. But he walked up to say hi, and she, like, jumped up to go hug him and was talking. And he's like, oh, you're reading a book. What are you reading there? And it's one of my smutty books. The same kind that I read. And she's like, oh, just a book. And I thought that was so funny. But anyway, we saw Thor. We saw all the princesses. We got to see Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
Characters that you don't ever see when you go to Disney are there on the cruise. And they're all dressed up. So you had Captain Mickey and you had, all the characters dressed up as pirates on Pirate Night. Jack Sparrow was there. He was kind of skinny. I don't know. But anyway, he was there walking around doing his thing. Got to take a picture with him. So if you enjoy Disney or your kids are really into Disney, those kind of magical pieces and living that through them is really what's worth the most money.
Yeah, and he spent so much time on the slides, the like water slides and all that, the little water theme park. And they have this thing called the Oceaneers Lab, where essentially it's daycare for kids. You can drop them off there and they can't leave unless they scan their wristband, and you got to be there
with a secret password.
And that's where he discovered Mario Kart 8. And he played that. They had a Switch set up, and towards the end, he's like, all I played was Mario Kart 8 for hours.
Hours.
And so when we got back, it happened to be on sale at Target. I was like, oh, perfect. It's on sale. I think it was $39.99 as opposed to like the $60 that they charge. And so we picked it up, and Bobby gave me the heads up about Mario Day, which was like a week or two later. So then I just did, it was within a week. Took the receipt back and said, hey, it's on sale now. Can I just get the $5 or $10 or whatever? And they're like, yep. So they put it right back on the card, and he's been loving it. He's been getting good at it.
He's so good at it too.
I taught him the tricks, all the drifting boost, the hops that you got to do to get the extra boost as well when you land or right beforehand. And there's been one cup that he beat me legit.
Yeah. There's a few rounds where he'll beat me too. And he's always like, oh yeah. And like brags a whole lot. And then when I beat him, he's like, oh, good job, Mom.
I know he could probably beat me more often as if he did the things I did as far as like turning corners, being on the inside of the corners. And he chooses the motorbike, and sometimes he's just back and forth on the road.
Right.
And so drivers get ahead of him. But if you drive straight, much quicker, and he'll eventually learn them. But I think he's just having fun.
Yeah. He's just having such a great time. But additionally, in Oceaneers Lab, right, there were always games. Every half hour, there was a new activity for the kid. But it was so cool because we could just drop him off, and they just texted us when he was ready to be picked up. And that's how we knew to go grab him. And they had these cool hand washing stations, so they weren't getting all grimy and kid germs. They did have a daycare for Sophia. We had to pay for it. She did not like it.
No.
She went there twice and never again.
Before we get off on Mario Kart, we did show him with the help of Bobby, we got that Super NES Classic some years back.
Yes.
And so I was like, you want to see the first Mario Kart? And so we showed it to him and he's like, what is this? And it's like, that's Mario Kart. He's like, it looks kind of dumb.
Yes.
Started laughing when he said that. And he got the character select screen and it's 8 characters. And he's like, who else can you pick? I'm like, that's it.
And then he's like, what carts can I pick?
Oh, yeah. Just laughing like, what carts? That's it, man. And then he started and in these old games, you can drive anywhere. Whereas in Mario Kart 8, anyone that's played the new ones, they kind of guide you back into the track. They don't just let you drive wherever. And I've tried because there's some secret paths that they won't let me go on for, maybe it's only on 150cc that it'll let you.
Right.
But in the old Mario Kart, you got to get top 4 or else you lose. And sure enough, that's what happened with him. And he's like, man, I'm like, yeah, these games are tougher, man. These were smaller, shorter games. And to make up for it, they were a lot harder.
Now, that's one of my favorite memories of Mario Kart when I used to play. So Mario Kart 64 was the first one that I had. And again, same thing. You could drive pretty much anywhere. And so I used to go on time trial and I would just explore all of the stages and I would drive wherever. My favorite was Calamari Desert with the train.
Yeah.
And I would go on the train track. I would go through the tunnel. I'd follow the train everywhere. And eventually got to a point where like you had to stop. But I knew those tracks forwards and backwards because I spent hours just driving all around him, having a great time. I was really good at Mario Kart 64.
What do you think of that same desert that they brought it back in Mario Kart 8? Not the same?
It's not the same.
That's pretty cool. Like they
It's
did
not
a
the same.
decent job.
They did
like,
do a decent job. So one of the things I do think is pretty cool about Mario Kart 8 is you have your 3 laps, right? But each lap is different.
Yes.
And I do think that's really cool. There's some, like one of my favorite ones that I'm really bad at it is when they drop you at the top of the mountain and you have to go down that snow mountain. And so you're hitting the different laps, but the laps are spaces within the mountain. So you're not having to look at the same thing over and over again. It is very interactive and fun and feels like a different experience every time.
Right before I showed him that Super NES, I was like, oh, there's a system here, a new one you haven't played yet. And he's like, oh, is it the Xbox? No, not yet. Like he knows, like I told him once that I'm going to get an Xbox this year and he remembers.
That kid doesn't forget.
Yeah, we don't know if it's going to be a handheld though. We don't know if it's going to be a refresh.
Whatever it is, it'll be great.
It'll be awesome.
It'll be best.
Can't wait. Can't wait to pick it up. Scott still thinks I'm not going to get it.
I don't think you're going to get it. You're going to get it. You're going to get it if I get it for you.
No.
If I surprise you with it.
Even then, remember the last time you were like, I can get you one for Christmas and next. I'm like, no, there's a new system coming out next year. Why would I?
That's why I said if I surprise you with it, that's when you're going to get it.
I'm going to get it. Like you and Scott telling me you don't believe me is not going to make me get it more. Like I'll wait if there's another refresh if it's coming out, but there isn't. They haven't announced it.
We're supposed to be talking about our cruise.
What else do you have to say about it?
It was great.
All right.
Sophia woke up very early every day.
Yeah.
And we went out and we walked around the cruise and had a great time yelling at the sky with nobody there.
There you go.
But it was wonderful to see people interact with her. Everybody was smiling and asking how old she was. And they have a big old splash pad that she enjoyed. She and I took a few 3-hour naps, which was incredible. So I would say definitely better for older kids. Like 5 and up, I think, is a really great age where they have the most fun. But she definitely enjoyed it as well. And of course, all the food. There was all the food you could ever want all the time.
Favorite port, Cozumel?
Of course, Cozumel was my favorite. I did like Disney's Island as well. We got to go to the beach while we were there. And there's, of course, splash pads on the island and a bunch of different things. But yes, Cozumel is always great when we go because, of course, you have, it's just called Mega now, but the grocery store where you get to go and find all your snacks. And so getting to go through there and watch you discover all these things that you love. And
there's flavors of Frito-Lay that aren't here that you could only get there. Same with chocolates, local Mexican chocolates that you can't really find, at least here in the bundles, like in the sizes that they have, like the bigger packs. So if you like the Carlos Quintos, you can bring back like the bigger boxes. I saw my mom, she loaded up.
Yeah, she got all her snacks. She was so excited. But even they had the milks, like the Lala milks.
Yeah,
but
tiny forms.
Yeah, but they were coffee flavored too. So we got those different coffee flavors, which was really good.
Yeah, something about the Mexican milk, Lala milk, the way they pasteurize it, clean it, whatever it is. But it does have like almost a cream flavor to it, whereas I've always found that standard milk here, 2% or full fat, doesn't have a flavor. It kind of, I don't know, it's just like thicker water to me. And maybe I'm the only one, but Lala definitely has some kind of flavor.
It's sweeter.
Good. Maybe it's sweeter. And yeah, I missed it. And my mom told me, oh, you can order it from Walmart. And I was like, oh, well, I'm a Target guy, but I guess I can get that from Walmart. The one thing. And you got your Starbucks special drink that is different for some reason than the U.S. Starbucks.
They use different espresso in Mexico. So I got to go get that. It was delicious because the cruise coffee was terrible. But I did very much enjoy my Mexico Starbucks.
What was it you got?
Just iced espresso. I think I got an ice shaken espresso with an extra shot and some oat milk. I think that's what I got, which is my usual order here. 4 shots of espresso. And it was a good time. You got to go to the gym on the cruise. That's the first time that I remember every other cruise we've always gone and like, suckers, why would we work out on a cruise? And then here we were.
Yeah, we were there. I don't know why I thought that it would be more difficult with the rocking because the weight's obviously shifting, but wherever they placed it, plus in general, this cruise was a lot less turbulent than other ones. We did see people with their seasick stickers
Patches,
behind their ears, but we didn't have a hard time with this one. And there's been others where they've been bad, but this one was perfectly fine. And yeah, when we went to the gym, obviously very different machines, just get used to them. But I would say the running was probably the hardest on the cruise. But even then, it was like, I never lost my balance or anything like that.
Right. The first night on the cruise, I did have a hard time with the rocking. I would feel it like every few minutes, it'd feel like tipping over. And then when we got back, I had kind of the same sensation for the first day, but I feel like other cruises, it was like a week of feeling that way. So yes, this was definitely much smoother.
Not something we get to do often enough, unfortunately, but I'm glad that we were able to go and go with my parents as well. So that was a good family trip for everyone to interact with, and they helped with the kids too, which was nice.
It was really cool to see the theming too. Just very briefly, they had a section of the food on deck that was all Cars themed. So seeing again little things like that, or the ice cream stand was called Ice Cream, and it was Monsters Inc. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was great to, I think my two favorite pieces, and then I would love to hear what your favorite was. The first was getting to see all that through our kids' eyes. Just live that through them, because of course it was all new and exciting. Leo's still talking about it, and it's been however many weeks, right? He remembers the names of our servers and says, I hope they're doing okay. And, just getting to see that through their eyes was great. But also just the ability to really disconnect. Like, nobody could text me. Nobody could call me. I didn't even have internet for any of it, really, except when we got into port, to automatically jump on social media or scroll through things, right? It was just a really great way to kind of reset my brain and be really present with the family.
I will say I'll give a thumbs down back to streaming services, because I downloaded a bunch of movies and shows to fall asleep to, because I knew we wouldn't have internet. And Max and Netflix both have a time limit on how long that movie can be downloaded on your phone. That wasn't a thing before that I remembered.
It wasn't.
Because I know when I used to visit Riggs in Illinois years ago, I would download a movie and watch it while I was up there as I'm falling asleep. And there was no time limit back then. Now there is. On Max, I had Red Dawn downloaded, and I was trying to finish it, and I was almost done. And then by like night 2 or 3, it was like, hey, would you like to re-up your download? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like, yeah, you got to re-authenticate it. I'm like, I don't have fucking internet. Couldn't do it.
Nah.
Same with Netflix. Couldn't do it. Voodoo came through. Voodoo had all my downloads. I downloaded the Venom movie and a couple other things. Just stuff to fall asleep to. And I watched them, and Silent Hill was one of them too.
No, spooky. You were watching that next to me?
I didn't get around to it. I watched Venom and something else. And that got me through the week. But yeah, it was... Voodoo came through. I like Voodoo. And YouTube as well. You could also keep your downloads there. YouTube doesn't mess around with reactivations.
Right.
So if you're going to go on any of those trips, no internet, or you don't want to pay for internet, Voodoo and YouTube are the way to go.
But what was your favorite part? You still haven't said that.
Of the cruise?
Yeah.
Cozumel for sure. Same thing. Just going out there, talking to the other Mexicans and being able to
Your people.
communicate with them. And my dad was asking questions too. And it was kind of funny how things had changed so much. I had mentioned that at that mega store, we used to go there and we used to load up. Again, this was many years ago. We used to load up on toothpaste and shampoo, things that were half off there compared to here, that I'm like, we're always going to need that. Might as well get it half off here.
Right.
That all changed this year. We went back there and we were converting the prices and it's like, it's the same as back home. And when we talked to the taxi driver, he was like, yeah, what's happening is all these Americans are moving down here and they're buying up these properties and building apartments and condos and hotels, investing in the land and raising the prices of these houses and condos to the point where the locals cannot afford those places. Only other richer people can as well. Other people that, whether they're from Brazil, wherever it is. And so what he said, what's happening is it caused the cost of living to go up around them as well. He's like, I still have to pay $3 for a bottle of water, just like these people need to. I don't get a special pricing on it. None of the locals do. So we can never save up enough money to be able to afford one of those places. And that reminded me, and I'm sure others can relate, that might be in the US, but it reminded me here in Florida of all the Californians and New Yorkers that moved down during COVID. Same exact thing happened. Cost of living went way up. Places got way more expensive. And I was like, dude, I can relate. Like, I know we're in a better spot than probably someone in Cozumel, but holy shit. Like, I get it.
Yeah. And we're very fortunate with our living situation and our work situations to be able to afford life as well as we do. But yeah, it's expensive. I don't know how people do it. Florida is so expensive.
Keep discussing. Maybe one day. Georgia, Colorado, you keep wanting.
Yes, Colorado is very expensive, but we can move to Georgia. Let's go.
Maybe one day, yeah.
We'll go live with a bunch of cows. You went up there. You said you liked it.
I loved it. Yeah, I did like it.
Beautiful. Let's
I'd have to go a few more times, though, just to see. This year's family trip, I'll be there for sure if they do it.
Well, maybe there's no allergies up there.
Oh, there's definitely not. So far, at least when I went.
Then let's go. We'll pack up right now.
We were on the ship. Allergies gone after 2 days. And then day one back, I'm coughing and sneezing and terrible.
You and both the kids.
Yeah. And the rest of my family, they caught something.
I caught it a couple weeks later. You're right. We caught the flu that was going around. That was rough. But overall, great vacation. Would you go again?
Yeah. Yeah, the kids really enjoyed it.
They did. We'll wait a few years till Sophia's a little bit older.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But she's at least sleeping through.
Oh, I hope so.
But I hope you enjoyed that life update, Brocat Core. I know it's been a while, but it's not easy recording every week like it used to be. And I know we've discussed that before here on the show and the Wise. But I still like to get out that episode when we can. The Broscars can't miss the Broscars. Cannot. They deserve their recognition, the movies that deserve it. There had been less than 5 good movies, then sure, maybe there wouldn't have been a Broscars, but there were good films. And I'm glad that Bobby in particular helped in building this nominee list. So thank you, PalpaKelli, for helping host this year's 2024 BROSCAR Awards.
Of course.
For you on the other side, if you want to help us out, please tell a friend about the podcast, whether they're big into the Snyderverse or films. Rebel Moon's coming up. We're going to definitely discuss that. And our Facebook page in particular has also been doing really well over the last couple of months. A lot of interactions there, especially in the Facebook groups, that has caused the page to grow quite a bit. So there's a link at thereasonsimbroke.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll find a link to our Facebook page. That's once again, thereasonsimbroke.com. Thank you for joining us. I've been Daniel, joined by
Emperor PalpaKelli
and Brocat Core. All will be well.
So you read the Rebel Moon book?
Not yet. It's on my list. It's on my. I'm insane. I got to read it in order.
Okay.
In order of purchased. So I'm working my way down.
Because I was going to ask how spicy it is.
I turn it to a page for you. I'm like, I heard that this part. And it's
and I wasn't about the writing. It wasn't very good.
Jesus. But you read way more books than I do, so I'll take your word for it.
Well, yours is written by man, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's written by man. So that's the problem. There's no flowery explanations. There's like, and this, in this.
And then he came.
And that's it, which is fine. If that's what you're into, that's fine. But women need flowers and emotions and, things.
Maybe in the R-rated cut, all those scenes are supposed to be in there. The weird tentacle scene, the villager love
weird
scene.
tentacle scene.
Remember the villain? He has those tentacles around him. Apparently that's like a thing that something happens.
Oh, okay, Rebel Moon. I see you.
That's the gimmick, right?
That's the gimmick. Tentacle Man. Yeah. Okay. You're going to get a lot more people watching this movie soon.
Tell your groups.
I sure will. Yeah. No, they already brought it up in one of my groups. Somebody posted the picture and they're like, any tentacle reps? Rex?
Rebel Moon was there?
Yes.
Nice.